With the upcoming Planet Zoo live stream coming on March 26th, anticipation for a new DLC update is very high. I'm going to be talking about the Asian Animal Pack and kind of what we can maybe hope to expect if this is the kind of route that they want to go down. Join with me today as I'm Greyhammer and we're going to go over just a really cool, interesting pack with some beautiful animals from the continent of Asia. If you do like this kind of content, go ahead and hit the like button. It really helps out. Go ahead and comment of species you'd like to see from Asia, make it their way to Planet Zoo. And go ahead and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, as well as we'll be doing DLC reviews once the DLC is actually launched. So let's get into it with our first animal. First animal is going to be the Kulan, which is a wild donkey native to Central Asia and the Middle East. It lives in deserts and grasslands and is endangered through poaching. They are one of the fastest land animals at 45 miles per hour, but they can also defend themselves defensively, and they can group up to defend themselves against things like lions and tigers, and wolves being their primary predator. They are also known as the Turkmenistan onager, or Turkmenistan Kulan. So they are in the wild donkey like onager species. There's other species of onagers as well that they could include, but I picked the Kulan because they are endangered, and as you can see in this picture, they are somewhat common in some zoos. I really love wild donkey species, and right now we have one from the African continent, so I think an Asian species would also work really well. The next one is our Argali. They're native to East and Central Asia, dwelling in mountainous temperate forest, taiga, and tundra. So these would be a great Himalayan species. We have a lot of Himalayan predators, but not a lot of Himalayan prey necessarily. Most of our mountain species live either in Western Asia, in Europe, or in North America. They can live in herds of up to 150 individuals, and in the Chinese traditional medicine market has caused them to be near threatened, though they are still in a stable population. So an Argali would be a really cool species to have in Planet Zoo, and they have some different coat colors. This is just one of them. So I think they would definitely be an interesting species and would love to see them in Planet Zoo. I like to see animals that can move along rock formations really well, so a species like this would be really cool to have. The Siberian Roe Deer or Asian Roe Deer is a small deer species found from Eastern Europe to East Asia. There is, in fact, a European roe deer species as well, that's a little bit more common but I think the Asian species would work well as well, and you could kind of tag it in for the European species if you wanted to. They do dwell in temperate forest, taiga, and grassland, and they are the main prey for the Eurasian lynx. A really cool species, very small deer species, like not as small as your muntjacs and other small deers, but they're about 40 to 50 pounds, from what I remember. So a really cool species would work well in multi-species habitats with things like red deer, fallow deer, uh, and would do good for predator-prey interactions between like Amur tigers, Amur leopards, things like gray wolves, Eurasian lynx, all those prey on this animal. And so it would be cool to have kind of those exhibits next to each other that you often see in zoos. Let's get into the next one, which is the Owston's palm civet, our first carnivoran for this pack, and I think our only mammalian carnivore in this pack. They're relatively commonly kept in zoos. They're a small predator native to China, Vietnam, and Laos. Relatively common in zoos, like I said, but very little of them is actually known in the wilds. They are endangered through habitat loss and population fragmentation. And they're a really cool species. I think there's other civet species and civets and other members of that family that could be included into this roster. Would be able to share interspecies enrichment with like the binturong, maybe the proboscis monkey as well. But they're definitely a interesting species, and I'd love to see more of those small mammals because they're really lacking in Planet Zoo, and they're really, really cool because you can really build small exhibits for them. I mean, I think an 8 meter by 4 meter enclosure would be really good for them, but then again, they'll probably go in a 200 square meter ish enclosure if they were to be included. So yeah, they're really cool, but not even some of the coolest species in this pack, in my opinion, because we've got the king eider, a beautiful duck species that lives in the Arctic on the coast of Russia, Scandinavia, Canada, and Alaska. The males are this very bright color that you see here. They are a diving duck species, and also in the sea duck family. They live on benthic invertebrates, meaning things that live on the ocean floor. So, would be able to do a deep diving water bird would be really, really cool, in my opinion. Well, let me know what you think about that. Again, just a super interesting waterfowl species, and I think we need more waterfowl because it just livens up zoos a lot. I think having ponds with ducks in them just makes it feel so much more zoo-like. I know my local zoo has large ponds with swans from either native swans and ducks or species that their wings have been clipped so they can't leave the ponds. Would be really cool. I know my zoo has black swans, which is cool. Let's get into our next species, which is another really interesting bird, the great Argus. Native to tropical forest of Borneo, Malaysia, and Sumatra. They are vulnerable due to habitat loss and hunting, where they are hunted for both their meat and their elaborate tail feathers, which they use in the elaborate courtship displays you might have seen in zoos. They're a very common zoo species. Very interesting in those multi-species bird aviaries, which unfortunately we don't get in Planet Zoo. Maybe we will in Planet Zoo too, but yeah, I think that would be a really cool bird species. And yeah, I think that's all I've got to say about the great Argus. I don't know too much about them, to be fair, but they are an interesting bird species. The King Cobra is our next one. It's the largest venomous snake. This is probably one of the most requested reptiles in Planet Zoo. They can reach lengths of up to 13 feet long, which is very large, but would still. I know we get a lot of complaints about species being too small to fit in the exhibit boxes. The recommended exhibit size for snakes is usually, I believe it's 1 to 1.5 their body length. Especially with it being square, you could maybe make the argument even that 1 is more accurate. It's more rectangular that you need the 1.5. So, with it being a little bit over 16 feet long in the enclosure, you're going to get pretty close to that recommended size for the King Cobra, and I'm pretty sure green anacondas and boa constrictors are about the same size. So actually, I think that the exhibit boxes are not too small for these species. These are native to Southeast Asia, and it's thought India, but there is speculation that they might have actually been introduced into India. They do live in tropical forest. They're called a king cobra because they often eat other snakes. If something has a king on the name, usually it means that they're eating others of their like general group. Like king snakes eat other snakes. King cobras eat other snakes, often Burmese pythons, because they are that 13-foot long snake. They're also not a cobra, so they are false cobra, but they have the largest amount of venom of any species of snake. Not necessarily the most dangerous venom, but definitely have a lot of it. Let's go into just briefly a few pieces that they might include that I've been wanting to see, and this would work especially with their bird aviaries. We have mesh, but I'd like to see like a screen mesh like we have in the butterfly enclosure. I'd like to see something more like that kind of sells the meshed over enclosure Like, the mesh we have is great for some enclosures. I've been using it a lot for my Indian carnivore house. You should definitely go check out those streams, and we'll have videos on them out in the future. And once I get caught up on videos. But I think a screen mesh with a very fine mesh would be really, really interesting. Could have it draped over poles like you often see in these walk-through enclosures. Would be great for species we have like the Indian peafowl, the swans, the flamingos, even use it for other animals like meerkats and things like that, so that guests can get a really good view of animals inside. But yeah, that's kind of the piece I'd like to see in this update the most. As it's an animal pack, you're not going to see too many construction pieces, so I think I'll keep it at that. Some more education pieces would be really cool as well, especially some education pieces that would work with the exhibit animals as well, because we only really have the exhibit signs. So yeah, that's going to be it for this one. Go ahead and leave a like if you enjoyed these animal ideas. Go ahead and comment and say any species that you might switch out for the others. I know there's a lot of Asian animals, so it was very difficult picking which ones to include. And comment what kind of DLC you think that they're actually going to do. Because, I mean, this is all speculation. We will be speculating until March 26th, when hopefully the concept for it will be released, at least. Be waiting very anxiously for that time. Only 16 days from when I'm recording this. And it will be 13 days when this video releases. So we're getting close. Almost 2 weeks away. And yeah, go ahead and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. We will be covering all the new DLC stuff as soon as it comes out, unless Frontier gives me a key, but I highly doubt that. I don't think they know me. But yeah, that's going to be it for this episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.